When patient care is your top priority, you need a proven workforce solutions partner who can deliver it all and deliver it right. AMN Healthcare brings together technology and talent into one seamless solution. Trusted by more than 2,000 health systems across the country, we help organizations make smarter, data-driven decisions and improve patient outcomes. AMN Healthcare. One partner, complete workforce solutions. Discover how we are empowering the future of care at amnpartners.com.
Rated mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Patriot Angle Podcast. Welcome, guys. I got a heated show for you. Loaded show today. Just had the honor and privilege, of being on Rip Views Media podcast just earlier tonight, actually. It was a damn good show. Got into some good topics, gun reform, the mental illness problem that we have in the country. We got into the Roe versus Wade turnover. Guys, got into a lot of good topics. Had the honor to talk to a leftist from Coop Save America podcast. It was a really good show. I did not agree with Sean, the host of his show there, on a lot of different angles. But hey, that's what makes America, great. We can have discussions, we can have conversations that we may not agree with. But you know what? By the end of the day, we're the same type of people. We agree on certain viewpoints while the others agree with others. That's what makes this country great. Everybody has different opinions, whether they're right or wrong. No one is right and no one is wrong, right? Or at least that's what I see as it. But I want to get into some topics here today with Joe Biden. Yeah, guys, Joe Biden is literally revealing his cue cards. Well, we all know, guys, that cue cards are a normal thing here. Every president has cue cards or index cards or, little side notes, just in case they may forget to add something into the conversation, into the speech, while talking to the Associated Press or anybody for that matter. But why am I making this a big issue on the show, guys? You're gonna understand why. We got a lot more on the show, guys. I gotta get into my first break here, my first sponsor, guys, and we'll be right back after these short words. Don't go anywhere.
Broadcasting from the Big Peach of Atlanta, Georgia. A show unfiltered, unscripted, raw. The Patriot Angle Podcast.
Hey guys, today's show and episode is sponsored by Amazon Music, guys. Amazon Music has a series of podcasts, music, just about everything you could find on Amazon Music, guys. I love them. We happen to be on Amazon Music. You could find a lot of premium type of stuff with their Amazon Music Unlimited feature. What's on this section? Well, you're going to find a lot of your shows on Amazon Music, right? You're going to find Dan Bongino. You're going to find Michael Savage. You're going to even find a lot of shows that are affiliated with Fox Nation, guys. All on the premium stuff. With premium, their unlimited plan there, you can have unlimited access to songs, podcasts, talk shows, and hear it all, guys. You could skip, you can rewind, you could pause, you could do all that great stuff. You could skip through ads. You can download all this stuff. Maybe you're on a plane and you know the carrier doesn't want you having your data on. No problem. Download all your favorite songs, podcast episodes on the Amazon Music Unlimited feature. Download it and play it on the offline mode, guys. That's what's great about Amazon Music. Now, here's the best part, guys. Go to getamazonmusic.com/The Patriot Angle, and you're going to get the first 30 days free on us. Wonderful, right, guys? 30 days of Amazon Music Unlimited for free? You can't beat it. Now, after 30 days, if you decide to keep it, great. If you decide not to, well, maybe it wasn't for you. But at least you tried it, right, guys? So, getamazonmusic.com/The Patriot Angle, and you're going to get the first 30 days on us, guys. Great stuff. AmazonMusic.com. Check them out today, guys. Alrighty, guys, we're back here on the show. Guys, we're talking about Joe Biden and his latest flip-flop, right? Flip-flop. Well, did everybody see what happened to Joe Biden? Joe Biden literally revealed his cue cards. Yeah, Biden accidentally flashed a cue card that literally tells him exactly where to go and what to say at just about every major White House type of event. Now, President Joe revealed all this just the other day during a meeting about offshore wind at the White House on June 23rd. This was just yesterday, actually, believe it or not, where Biden literally flashed his cue card for a White House meeting, which held simple instructions. Get this, guys. They included, you take your seat, Joe, as well as an instruction to say hello to the guests. Guys, these are fucking cards that are written specifically for Joe to understand so he can basically take out his day accurately so he doesn't screw up on camera, which he tends to do from time to time. Just about every day he's screwing up. He's lying. He's saying the wrong things. They have to help Joe go to places and this and that. So, Joe was a little confused. Now, President Joe Biden literally gave remarks just yesterday in the Roosevelt Room to a gathering of state governors about a partnership with 11 states to speed up the growth of the offshore wind industry and its domestic supply chain in the U.S., which is growing a huge amount of concerns right now for our nation. A lot of remarks coming out of this, guys. Trying to get partnership with 11 states to speed up the growth with the wind industry. Well, that was something that Donald Trump was against, the windmills in America. Not only does it kill birds, but it's terrible for our society. Terrible. Now, also, during this event, the photographer documenting the event captured one of the documents Biden used during the meeting. A cue card titled "The President," with the title of the event and bullet-pointed instructions seemingly for Biden. Yeah, it was seemingly written out for Joe Biden. I mean, if the photographer wasn't at the correct angle, he got the correct angle, the timing, perfect. Because you can go right over to the website here through what is this through? This is through homepage, actually, which I will put in the show notes. It was through com.cdn.amproject.org. Like I said, I'll put it in the show notes so you guys can read out the whole article and actually see where the photographer took the picture. Got it at the precise moment. The correct timing was perfect, guys. Now, the photo of the list, which is somewhat blurry, right? The photographer couldn't get a correct shot on it. It was a little blurry. I think it was because of Joe maybe possibly shaking his hands, because the guy is getting up in age, right? The oldest living president, the oldest president ever to take office, Joe Biden. So he might have been shaking his hands a little bit, or he probably waved his hands. So it made the photo blurry. From the photographer. Now, a close-up of the Q, which they did try to get a close-up, but it was still blurry, held by Joe Biden at the meeting with wind energy leaders in the White House. And it was all notes for Joe. All notes. Some of the instructions read this, folks. You enter the Roosevelt room and say hello to the participants. You take your seat. Press enters. You give brief comments. And this note was particularly blocked by Biden's finger from the photographer that took the picture there. And then the fifth, it goes on, guys. The fifth instruction says press the parts. Then it goes into 6. Number 6, you ask Liz Sherla, President AFL-CIO, a question. Note, Liz is joining virtually. Oh my God. Obviously, right? The last couple of instruction notes read this. You take participants and then you depart, Joe. Guys, these are specific instructions for Joe Biden. Now, I'm told that these instructions are written for Joe Biden a lot. Now, there was a tweet among Biden's political opponents, including Stephen Miller, a far-right presidential advisor. And Miller tweeted, in reference to the card, there need to be emergency hearings next year on the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment relates to the removal of a president who is incapacitated. There is no evidence that Biden is incapacitated. Oh, really? There's no evidence of that? He shows no evidence of a mental illness? Which, folks, I don't know if you understand this, but mental illness, dementia, that could be looked at like that. Without a doubt. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that might disagree with me and say, oh, no, Mike, mental illness is not, dementia is not mental illness. Oh, you don't think so? What is it then, guys? What form of illness is dementia? It's not a form of mental illness? Sure it is. I'm telling you, guys. Telling you. More on this, guys. I gotta get another break in, guys. More on this issue here with Joe Biden and his cue cards right after this, guys. Be right back. Hey folks, Mike from the Patriot Angle Podcast. This episode today is brought to you by our good friends at Matchmaker.fm. Check Matchmaker.fm out today. Folks, they are a platform not only for searching for podcasts and other political podcasts such as sports, conservative, just about any type of podcast you could find is on Matchmaker.fm. What's also great about Matchmaker.fm is if you are a podcast host, you can connect with other hosts and other profiles on that site, not only to basically match up with your next perfect guest that you might want to bring on your next episode, but it also basically brings out more revenue to your podcast. So check out, guys, Matchmaker.fm. And don't forget that you heard that on the Patriot Angle Podcast. All right, guys, back to the show. So we're talking about Joe Biden's cue cards. We even got into part of this discussion here on the episode, the podcast here, with possibly, the rest of our government, our congressional leaders, our senators, everybody for that matter, possibly looking at maybe invoking the 25th on Joe, right? I mean, it's clear evidence, folks, that this man is not fit for office. Even liberals out there, leftists now, are now seeing high levels of dementia from this president. Now, who's to argue that other presidents did have dementia? I mean, it was a clear fact that Ronald Reagan was suffering it late in his presidency there in the 80s. Every form of another, some form of an elderly type of a president had forms of dementia or Alzheimer's at one form of another. I mentioned Ronald Reagan. Jimmy Carter was another one. Richard Nixon. All others. Usually elderly type of presidents showed signs of this type of mental illness. Which it is, folks. It's a mental illness. A mental illness, let me say this here. So let me classify mental illness for those who might, argue and, want to rebuttal the fact and the definition of mental illness, right? When you hear mental illness, do you hear anxiety, you hear depression, you hear those average terminology of the definition mental illness. But it could be looked at other things, folks. It could be looked at other avenues. Well, what is mental illness? Like I said, it has many definitions. But let's break it down in layman's terms. Mental illness, it affects the mental estate of your mind. Right? Now, does everybody have mental illness? Sure. In one form of another, yes. Some people have high levels of mental illness. Some people have lower levels of mental illness. Some, it doesn't affect them until later in life. Some affects them early in life. Some are born with mental illness. Some are it's a self-perpetuating type of scenario. You can give yourself mental illness. Well, how the hell can you do that, Michael? Well, forms of stress, yes. Anxiety, right? Maybe the boss at work is getting on you for turning in that paperwork late, and you're developing stress and workplace and aggravation. That's a form of mental illness, folks. High levels of it. But what do you think it does to elderly people, such as Joe Biden? Well, when you get older, folks, the mindset cannot break down everyday forms of stress. It can't break it down fast enough, as if somebody in their early 20s. Now, we can argue all day, folks, about scientific facts and fiction and just straight up bullshit. Because that's what the left seems to do. They like to argue on facts about their opinion on what it is. And this defies the left and the right, folks. The left will always come up with an opinion, okay? And they'll always think that they're always right. I never met a leftist yet, folks, that will literally admit they're wrong. Oh, they're always right. They're always right. The right is always wrong. That's somewhat of the issues we have in America facing our nation today, where the left and the right are always bickering. Are they bickering more now than ever? So what do you think that does to our political parties? It divides them. It separates our true meaning here for this country. Doing good for the common morale. That's what separates insanity from sanity. You know, we're talking about mental illness. I got into it a little bit with Rip Views media podcast earlier tonight, you know, including Coop Save America with Sean there that was joining the show. You know, I got into this a little bit with them. Actually, majority of the show was about mental illness and gun reform and the Roe versus Wade scenario. But, you know, I want to break down a little bit of what I was trying to get on that show. Maybe possibly bring it on tonight's episode, you know, with mental illness. How can we eliminate mental illness in this country? Well, I can tell you right now, there are a lot of ways how we can eliminate it, folks. One, we can eliminate the constant knick-knacking, right? Sure, we're going to knick-knack and we're going to have our side concerns and comments on people that suffer from it, without a doubt. Sure. But does that solve anything, folks? Does that break down the elements of how we can fix this? No. It just makes matters worse. How can we get rid of the mental illness in this country? How? Should we have our therapist, our psychologist, become more involved with the mentally ill? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's the problem, folks. That these organizations, these groups are not being involved with their patients. Hell, some of them don't even have patients. Some of these people do not see that they have problems going on. Well, if you don't see that you have a problem of what's going on upstairs in the brain, right? You're not fixing the problem. And if you don't have people that surround you that are not helping you and just making things worse by constantly talking down on you, that's not fixing the issue either. We need to have mental illness addressed correctly in this country, or we're going to have more problems. This country suffers high levels of it than any other country or nation on the face of this planet. And that's a fact. You know, we seem to live in a society now where we have fact checkers, which I got into just on episode 280, just the other day, about fact checkers. They love to fact check, but are they actually fact checking the actual facts? No. They're going off of third-party sources such as Google and the rest of social media on their comments and thoughts on that issue. That's what's really going down, folks. You want to understand about the fact-checking? That's what I was trying to get into on episode 280. We need to screen out mental illness properly. And I believe that's how we can end it. That's how we can end this crisis, because we are at a crisis. We're talking about pandemics and epidemics and everything else. The real pandemic in this country is mental illness. Everybody talks about, you know, gun rights and gun reform. I don't think we have a gun issue in this country. I think we have a mental illness in this country, because our country is suffering tremendously from it. The violence, the mass shootings, the abortions, all this crap in this country, folks, is linked to mental illness. It's linked to all of it. We need to be more involved with one another. We need to have more involvement with ourselves, our communities, our neighborhoods, our families. Hell, I don't care. You see a coworker that's having a bad day, go up to that coworker and ask them, hey, man, hello, ma'am, how are you doing? There's none of that happening. Now, all of a sudden, you can be looked as harassing somebody by going up to somebody, voicing your concern because you see that there's a problem. Our society has become that today. It's disgusting. You can't even go up to somebody, talk to somebody without having that person, oh, you're harassing me. Get away from me. Space, space, space. Look what's going on with our society. Social distancing from this plandemic. It wasn't even a pandemic. Of COVID. Destroyed social skills. Kids today don't even know what it is. Doesn't even exist in children's eyes. Being social with one another. Interacting. It killed it, folks. Look what the hell is going on in our society. Wake up and understand what the hell is wrong. We need to tackle these issues correctly. If we constantly have a right view versus a left view, we're never going to fix things properly. Stop making it about left view versus right view. Make it one view. Make it something where we can understand. You have a president right now in this country, Joe Biden, that is not tackling things correctly. We had a president before Joe Biden that tackled all issues correctly, accurately, and responsibly. Now, one will argue with that, where he said mean things, and he had a really, really strong demeanor and character as a president. Folks, he wasn't a politician. He was a businessman. That's the difference between a businessman, a person, an average American that works every day, puts towards his business models and everything else, versus a career politician. That was the difference we seen between a businessman like Donald Trump and a politician such as Joe Biden and all the other career politicians before him. They don't do things accurately. They talk the good talk, but when it comes down to dealing out the business, they don't do a damn thing for the American people. Now, I want to get into a topic here. We're talking about Joe Biden, his cue cards, right? And just what's wrong with how his policy is. It's funny, you know, that I have this topic here on tonight's show. But does everybody remember for the last 4 years we had to hear the left's views on Donald Trump? Oh, he was so bad as a president. He's a dangerous threat to our democracy and everything else. You know, he said mean tweets at 3 o'clock in the morning. Come on, did you really vote him out because he said mean tweets at 3 o'clock in the morning? And then we had to hear the left praise Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the next hope for America. Joe Biden is going to fix COVID. I'm going to end COVID. Remember Joe Biden's famous words? I'm going to end COVID. I'm going to do things that Donald Trump couldn't do. Oh, yeah? Oh. Let me set the standard here, the stage. Joe Biden didn't end COVID. The American people ended COVID because we got tired and fed up with the lockdowns, the restrictions, and the forced vaccines down our throats. The American people dropped the Kool-Aid effect the same way they did in 1920 with the Spanish flu. It's a fact. Yeah, all my fact checkers out there, good luck trying to prove me wrong, because that's true and accurate knowledge of intelligent truth. Yeah. You're probably scratching your heads there in your basements trying to figure out how to fact check me and censor me right there, right? Everybody got tired of it. They dropped the Kool-Aid effect. What do we have a problem with right now? What is seriously wrong with America? Why do we have mass shootings? Why do we have suicide rates at historic highs? Why do we have a high mental illness problem in this country? Why do we have open border problems? Those are just a small set of examples that I'm labeling on this show. You know why we have all that, folks? It goes down to the basic principles. It's common sense, folks. You learn it as a kid, right? I want to quote something before I get more into this topic and this material that I'm trying to express here on my show. I learned this from a long time ago from my great-grandparents. God rest their soul. They told me and explained to me that if you do not know common sense, life will beat you down at a rapid pace. And we're seeing that today, folks. We're seeing our society being torn apart by one another. All of us. We're killing our society. We're destroying our culture. And we're destroying our way of life. For the purpose of what? To make a point? You know, we just had a law that was overturned earlier today, the Roe versus Wade, which is a very touching and sensitive topic. A lot of people will become very glued to the argument. It's a touching subject. It's a touching topic. It's an attack on women's rights. A woman has a right to abort a baby if she desires. Well, they may be right, they may be wrong. A woman does have a right to her body, her choice, right? Absolutely, it's in the Constitution. But does she actually have a right, okay, to abort a form of life? Does it say in the Constitution that that life, that embryo, that fetus, after a certain phase of that pregnancy that detects a heartbeat, has a choice and a right itself? I can't use the correct gender or sex because it hasn't been determined yet. But does that embryo, does that fetus, it can be labeled as it because it is an it at that time. There's correct medical terminology, but let's break down layman's terms for everybody to understand. The average Joe, the average Sally out there, right? That it, that fetus, that embryo, that has a heartbeat. That has a right. That woman does not have a right to terminate that pregnancy if she carries it past that phase. Because past that phase, I believe, what should be instituted into the law with the Roe versus Wade. That should be instituted into that phase of that law. Under no circumstance shall a woman terminate a pregnancy after 3 weeks, which right around 3 weeks is when the heartbeat is detected. That is now a life. That is now more than a fetus, more than an embryo. That is life, ladies and gentlemen. That life has a choice and a fighting battle at that point. I understand mistakes happen. Sorry, I'm getting a little heated on the show. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah. That has a choice. That life has a choice, has a right. If a woman decide to carry after 3 weeks, she does not have a choice to terminate that pregnancy. At that point, that woman should be put into a type of organization where she has to carry full term. If she does not want to if she does not want to elect herself as a mother, now this is where I'm probably going to have a lot of arguments here. She should have that baby put up for an adoption. Because there are families out there, ladies and gentlemen, that would take that child, whether it's a female or a male at that point of birth, love it, honor it, and give it tender care that it deserves. Because is it really that baby's fault that mother didn't want that baby? Is it that baby's fault that she wanted to have an abortion after 3-4 weeks of pregnancy? It breaks down to simple arguments, folks. We wouldn't even have the Roe versus Wade argument. We wouldn't even have this legal battle in the Supreme Court if it gets broken down to better choices with individuals. If you have to be explained on how to practice sex responsibly, maturely, who is the problem? You are. You have the mental illness, and you should not be having babies to begin with. Now, everybody has a choice whether they can have sex or not because it's their God-given right, and it's their right under the Constitution. I get it. But we're talking about mental illness today. We're talking about, I've opened up the show with Joe Biden's cue cards. I'm going off topic, but I'm going off topic for right purposes, folks. Mental illness is a problem in this country. A huge problem. Mental illness is looked at what I'm talking about now, with pregnancy and women making responsible and mature choices. If she cannot have herself and her partner elect a responsible choice by putting on protection, going to that damn drugstore, paying $8, $10, $15, whatever condoms cost today, in any pharmaceutical drugstore in America, they have a problem. They have a mental illness problem. Mental illness has series of different viruses in its family. That is the virus. That woman and that man are the virus. So this whole conversation, this whole argument that we're facing as a nation. You don't want to be criticized by people that don't support your crap and support pro-life? You don't want to be criticized and commented on? Make better choices, and you won't be labeled as a bad person. That goes on every type of argument in America. You don't want to be labeled, you don't want to be criticized, make better choices. That goes for the far left and the far right. Make better choices. We don't need gun reform. We don't need to ban guns. We don't even need to classify on who should have what type of gun and this and that. It's not an issue. We don't have gun issues. We don't have pregnancy issues. We don't have any of these issues. We have mental illness issues in this country. That's what's facing our nation. That's the problem. That's the pandemic, the true epidemic in this country. Mental illness. We don't have any other issues besides mental illness. We need to screen out mental illness properly. We need to make sure that the decisions that these people are making, some sick, demented folks out there in America, are making accurate decisions. That's what's going to save society. That's what's going to save humanity from extinction. That's what's going to save America. That's what's going to save our planet. people making proper and educated decisions. Guess who has to reap off the aftermath of all this problems, all this crisis in this world? Is the people that make stupid decisions. Because the others that make correct and mature decisions and thoughts, those people live a happy, healthy life. Don't get me wrong. But should we have to suffer from idiots that don't think clearly? No. I shouldn't have to pay my fucking tax-paying money to this type of crap. The people that make these decisions, let them pay for their stupidity. Let them pay. Let them foot the bill. I'm getting tired of paying for stupid people.
You just heard an episode of the Patriot Angle podcast. Remember to follow us on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon Music, and Audible. Also streaming live on Twitch. Remember to follow and like us, guys, for unfiltered, uncensored, raw content. Also, please head over to www.patriotanglepodcast.com for all your exclusive Patriot Angle podcast content and material, as well as the merchandise website, www.patriotunfiltered.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.